Advisory Committee are Mr. John Baltudis, Mr. David Joyce, Mr. Michael Letwin, and Mr. Ross Ray. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the City of Belleville to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations or City Council's decisions with respect to today's applications are requested to leave their name and address on the appropriate notification sheet located on the clipboard beside the podium, just right up here to the front. In general, any recommendation made today will be forwarded to the next City Council meeting. So welcome, everyone. So noting attendance, I note that Councillor Mike Graham is not in attendance, but Councillor Panchuk is here for Councillor Graham, and everyone else is here. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, moving on to public meeting. 3.1, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 55 Church Street South, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1058. Owner Paramathis Joseph, agent Chris Nava. And at this point, I would ask that Mr. Ashton provide an overview.
Thank you. So the application in regards to 55 Church Street South, that's before the committee tonight, deals with a concurrent application. It's similar in nature to the second agenda item, which is at 59 Church Street. So they each dealt with a severance and rezoning of each property to permit a semi-detached dwelling on each of these properties. The applications for these properties were first considered at the Committee of Adjustment meeting, which was deferred pending the zoning application being considered by this Planning Advisory Committee and Council. The Committee of Adjustment also referred the correspondence they received at that meeting to this committee and Council as part of their consideration of this application. So with the high level of interest in the applications associated with both these properties, staff is providing the following recommendation: that the Policy Planning section of the Engineering and Development Services Department report back to the Planning Advisory Committee at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and departments has been received and assessed. This will allow us to review the submissions and minutes from the Committee of Adjustment meeting, as well as any submission received through tonight's meeting, and report back to this committee. The staff report does outline some of the framework that staff will be basing their decision upon, including the provincial policy statement and the city's official plan. In terms of the city's official plan, staff notes the area is referred to as the Bayshore Planning Area, the city center. Policies of the area discuss how redevelopment of the area should be low density in nature, which means single detached dwellings, and attached dwelling units, which in other words means semi-detached dwellings. So based on the comments received at this public meeting, as well as consideration of written comments received through the Committee of Adjustment, the Engineering and Development Services Department will consider all information related to this application to amend the City of Belleville zoning bylaw 10245, and a recommendation report will be brought back forward to this committee for their consideration.
Okay, thank you. So I anticipate there's probably a lot of people here tonight that want to speak on this matter. Just asking, is there anyone out here speaking on behalf of the entire group? Okay, that makes...
Sorry, I'm speaking on behalf of a large portion.
Okay.
I can't necessarily say everybody in this room, but I would say probably the majority.
Okay. Well, I would ask you to come forward, sir, state your name. And I think what we're going to try and do is You will be heard if, even if you just, each one of you want to come up to the podium and just state your name, you're then on the record, and then all that information, you just have to state if you're opposing or you're in favor, and that way we get you on the record, and you will be able to sign the podium, and that way everybody will get notice of further comments from staff. So just trying to avoid a repeat of the same questions. Okay, so sir, state your name, please.
My name is Murray LaBerge, and I live at 42 South Church Street, Belleville, Ontario.
Thank you. Please proceed.
I represent a number of other residents of the South Church Street community and would like to speak to our concerns regarding the applications to rezone both 55 and 59 South Church Street to R3. I must speak to them together, as it is the bigger picture that must be considered here. First of all, other community residents gathered here must understand what R3 means, and I spoke to Mr. Thomas Deming, a city employee, who explained to me that R3 is required to build either a duplex or semi-detached home of any nature. Okay, there seemed to be a lot of confusion about that. The two applications before us propose each unit having 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 2 laundry rooms, a kitchen, and very little living space. At the Committee of Adjustment, the applicant's representatives advised us that the proposed design was for a multi-generational and possibly for vacation purposes. The bigger picture here shows 20 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms, 4 kitchens, 8 laundry rooms, all with very little living space. I find it questionable that we would have 4 such residences that are all going to be multi-generational. If we accept the applicant's intention, it really opens the door for future boarding houses, student residences, tourist rentals, or whatever. The community of South Church Street is made up of single-family homes, with the exception of one 3-family home that is probably over 100 years old, and it's grandfathered in, it's been there forever type of thing. This home has adequate parking, and it doesn't pose any problems. The proposed high-density homes of 55 and 59 South Church Street definitely do not fit into this single-family neighborhood that is currently being revitalized. New homes being constructed range from $700,000 to millions of dollars. Approval of these applications would create several problems, such as parking. South Church Street now sees a lot of traffic. Construction trucks, vehicles towing boats to the ramp, boaters, tourists to the marina, residents to use the Bayfront Trail, and it's the only access for the 31 homes of 24 South Church Street. And for anybody that doesn't know, that's that laneway that goes into the Devanco development. Presently, there are approximately 10 parking spaces on the street to service visitors to approximately 20 homes. There are many times now that guests, or even myself, cannot park in front of my own house unless I permanently leave a car there to reserve the spot. We often have to park in other streets or near the marina. The high-density duplexes proposed could generate many vehicles. 40? Who knows? We do know there is no parking. And we have to remember there are still vacant lots here to be built upon. If this proposal were approved, what is to stop these vacant lots from also being rezoned to R3, creating an absolute nightmare for our community? This area is now becoming a crown jewel along the southern Ontario lakeshore. Please don't ruin it through high-density rezoning. And I think the way it currently exists, I believe it fits into the city's long-range plans of rejuvenating that whole area. Another problem is the inefficient drainage of South Church Street. The storm drain located near the entrance to 24 South Church Street is too small to handle the water forced into the streets from rooftops. In a typical rain, water rises up over the curbs, creating what looks like a small lake. The residents from 31 homes on the laneway have to drive through it. It's their only exit. Such depth of water can damage vehicles, not to mention the damage to lawns and gardens as vehicles try and pass through this small lake. Changing the zoning here will add greater roof drainage into the street, which will only increase the existing problem. And then I ask you to consider 57 South Church Street. This is the property that currently exists between where those two applications are. The owner raised drainage concerns at the Committee of Adjustment and was told the properties would require a drainage plan. We can't understand how this could work when the greater drainage plan has already proven a failure. The mayor has been asked down here and has been kind enough to attend on several occasions to view the problem. We, the South Church Street community, ask you to deny these applications. The infrastructure simply does not and will not support it in its current state. The community definitely does not support it. And I'd like to have a show of hands from the audience of people that oppose these applications. Now, I must say I'm somewhat confused as to, we've got handouts that my friend has here for, I believe, most of you people, if not all. I think we've got 10 of them. It includes my speaking notes. It includes our case as to why we are against this. I'm a little bit confused, though, and I must say this is not my forte yet. This is the first one of these meetings I've attended. Are we considered as one of the groups you talked about if it has to go to a tribunal or whatever, appeal?
So what I was suggesting is that you hand in your notes, and that will go directly to staff. But if every single person wanted to come up and just come to the podium and state their name and go opposed or agree, they're on the record. They don't have to repeat what you have said, but that gives us a record for the minutes.
So I take it these minutes are being taped?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we don't have to all sign?
Well, you should sign the podium because everybody that signs that podium will get notice.
Okay, so this is,
Yep.
do I have to sign 2 of these or just 1?
There's 2 there for both properties.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
So
you
you
very
can do
much.
it now, or you can do it as you're leaving. But I am going to ask if there's anybody else that wants to speak, either in favor or opposed, and they can just come and state their name and get on the record.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask the applicant to also speak.
Thank you.
Okay?
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name's Tom
Oh,
Wickett.
sorry, just a second. I should have asked if there was any questions of the deputation. Okay? Yes, Councillor Panchuk.
Thank you, Mr. Labarge. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Did I pronounce that properly?
Yes.
Labarge? Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Can I ask a question about, are there any on-street parking restrictions in that neighborhood now,
Not that I'm aware of.
currently? So you have it. Did that, a couple summers ago, did that area experience any flooding issues?
Did we ever?
I know. I've asked the question.
As a matter of fact, the street was closed.
Yes, absolutely. So can you tell me, what did residents do in terms of parking during that episode of the flooding? Did they...
The street was closed, so a number of people actually parked north of where it was closed along the sides of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some vacant properties there that people had parked in on these properties and whatnot. It was jammed full of cars.
So what would you estimate, or how would you describe a situation if we had an additional 40 vehicles in that neighborhood? In those circumstances, what would that do to that, you said jammed full area? What would that do for
They
that?
couldn't hold them. You couldn't park 40 cars in there. You'd have to go down at that, if you could get to it, you'd have to, I don't think you could get to it before, but the parking where the marina is, that big open area where people park to both use the marina and use the waterfront trail. But it seems to me you couldn't get there the last time, so I don't know where you'd put those cars. It just wouldn't hold it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for the deputation? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Make sure you sign the podium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or opposing? Come on up. You're anxious.
Again, good evening. My name's Tom Wickett, and I live at 38 South Church Street, and I'm opposed. But what I do have is a handout for you good people, if I may, at
Yes,
this
please.
point, with your permission.
Please. He's the clerk. Thank you. Thank you. Any, Tom, is that it for you?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Tom Wickett from the committee? No? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor or opposing this application? Come on up. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's Wendy Russell Shepherd, and I live at Unit 4 at 24 South Church Street that faces onto Harbour Drive. The question I have for the group is this. I'm wondering, in the plan for the duplexes, how much on-site private parking is allowed for? The reason I'm asking this question is if this is multi-generational housing with this number of bedrooms, as my friend mentioned earlier, there's the possibility of 8 vehicles being living, so to speak, at each of these 4 duplexes. Therefore, my question to everyone is how much private off-street parking is in the plans for the duplexes? And one of the most critical reasons for that, as well as the overcrowding, is, as everyone in the room knows, is that in the wintertime, there is no on-street parking because of the snowplow. So that's my question.
Thank you, and I'll try and get you an answer right now, and I'll ask Manager Ashton to see if he can respond.
I think there's 2 provided for in the garage and 2 in the driveway.
So therefore, the issue is if there are 8 vehicles in each of those duplexes, where do the rest of the cars go? Yeah.
Well, we haven't, yeah, so anyways, so in our report, we'll be providing a report back, so we'll note your concerns about the 8 cars per house
Okay.
generation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Make sure you sign the podium.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any questions of the deputation? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else wishing to come forward opposing or in favor of the application? Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. So my name is Sharon Muir, and I live in another neighborhood. I live at 33 Finch Drive in Belleville, and I have a huge concern that the proposed rezoning would simply open the door to the proliferation of short-term rental properties in Belleville, potentially in my quiet neighborhood. I'm also well aware of the current lack of available long-term housing accommodation in Belleville, as depicted recently in the Intelligencer. We clearly need to address that concern, not move in the opposite direction of short-term housing, short-term rentals. For these reasons, I strongly object to the rezoning of the 2 properties on South Church Street.
Thank you, Ms. Muir. And I'll just ask the deputation, or the delegation here, if there's any questions. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Make sure you sign the podium. Anybody else wishing to come forward in favor or opposing the application? Come forward.
Hi, I'm Nadine Goulet, and I live at 39 Church Street.
Welcome.
And I won't go through everything I did, but I went through the zoning bylaws in 3 different areas because I was specifically looking at the need for student residencies. And so I looked at the bylaws in London, Barrie, and here. And what happens is these buildings get built, and then they're filled with students, and the universities and the colleges take no responsibility for any part of any off-campus living quarters. They will list them, but they take no responsibility for safety, whether they're adequate, whether they meet the standard codes. They don't take any responsibility. And there are houses around town that have already been turned into residences by subdividing beautiful homes into little bedrooms with locks on the doors, and they look derelict in no time. I hate to say it, but there's one on the corner of Albert and Bridge, and it's already, you can't walk by it down the sidewalk because they haven't even attended to the hedges, and the hedges are all overgrown on the sidewalk. The lawn that was supposed to be planted is just mud, and it's already looking like it's been there a long time. And these are the kinds of things that are going to happen in neighborhoods south of Church Street. And I went over all these bylaws, and they're supposed to be set up to protect the communities that are having problems with some of the buildings that are going on. And I just object to what's going on right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Goulet, one of our committee members have a question.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's, Nadine, that hit home exactly. That, the home you're referring to is the home I grew up in. And
Been in it many times.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other committee members? Would you like to submit your, Ms. Goulet, would you like to submit your documents?
They're actually just notes on, they can be, I don't care. They're just, I was just going through notes and...
Staff would gladly take them if you would like us to have them.
Sure.
Okay, just pass them through Councillor Panchuk, please. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor or opposing this application? Come forward.
First time. My name is John Royal. I currently live at 18 St. Paul Street, which is in the neighborhood. We're building a semi-detached on South John Street, named after me, John. And I think one of the things I would just like, because I build things, have built things, odds and ends, I would just like to know, or have a feeling that the people that live in the neighborhood and the people that will live in the neighborhood eventually know that there is a difference between planning, and this is typically what they call a planning meeting, and construction regulations. So if that comes up in the process, I think if you were to look at the drawings, which you all, I assume, have, and the notations that were given just at the beginning, where you know there are X number of bedrooms and X number of bathrooms and so on, and I think the terminology was a very small living space. I would like the public to know, is that covered in planning, but also in construction, because when it goes forward to construction, it is a different, obviously it's a different world. It has to adhere to planning, but are there guidelines in the construction regulations? You guys would all know this, whether there are or aren't. Regulations within the construction process that allows that sort of thing or doesn't allow that sort of thing. And I think in this particular case, and Mr. Panchuk asked about drainage and that's the kind of stuff which does come up, and where the boundaries were when the flood was here, because we have the new semi-detached that we're constructing. I have a bunch of grandchildren coming in there, but they don't have driver's licenses yet, so we're good. But in fact, where did they park? What happened? Because we weren't living in that particular spot, the neighbors parked in the driveway that wasn't barriered off from the water, which was fine with me, except I had no idea who it was, which was still fine with me because that's what you do. We weren't using it. But clearly the water comes up a long way, and the addition of, you pick a number, 10, 12, 14, 20 cars, it's a very significant thing. And parking there in the winter is very significant as well. If you can't plow the streets, then you can't get to your house. So I think that's a very, very major concern. But I would like to have the committee suggest that there be a link between planning and construction, and not the Ontario Building Code or anything, but the actual construction, the theory of construction in the city and so on. I think that's been a thing I would like to have seen for a long, long time, but that that's the way it is. We're good?
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions by the committee?
Ask me a construction question now. Good.
Well, staff heard you loud and clear, John, so have a seat and sign the podium. Anybody else in favor or opposing this application? Can I ask if the applicant is present tonight, Chris, or agent Chris Nava?
There's someone else that would like to speak.
Okay. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can I have your name?
My name's Robert Messer. I'm the resident at 57 South Church, sandwiched between these two proposals. Several years ago, when our street was redone, for some unknown reason, they raised the grade in front of my house. Now, when I walk out my front sidewalk, I stub my toe on the new sidewalks that were put in because they're about 2 inches higher than what they were before. My concern is to meet minimum grade on these new, on the new construction, how high they're going to have to raise these houses. Approximately 13 inches higher than what the sidewalk is now. Where is all the water going to go from those 2 lots beside me? It's going to go right into my backyard. I've lived down there for 35 years. I lived down there when it was a neighborhood, a tight-knit community. We don't want to turn it into a subdivision. I work for a builder. I know what subdivisions are like. I wouldn't want to live in one, and I don't want to live in one now. I don't want a house that's 1.25 meters from my property line. Granted, I know something's going to get built on those lots. What's wrong with putting a single-family dwelling? Not 20 more bedrooms. Possibility of 20 more cars. Everybody's voiced a concern about the parking. There is no parking. And even now when it rains, because of the way the grade is on that street, my driveway floods. Just a little drizzle. I have puddles in my driveway because everything runs back towards my property now because of city planning years ago. I voiced my concern then about the sidewalks. The answer I got was, oh, we can put a little asphalt ramp there so you don't stub your toe. That wasn't the answer I was looking for. And this isn't the answer I'm looking for today. To have roof runoff from God knows how big of a dwelling running into my backyard because it's much lower than everything else is there now. So that's the biggest thing I've got.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? No?
No. Thank you.
Make sure you sign the podium there. Okay, I'm looking for, I think we've gone through all that are opposed. Going once, twice. Yeah, but you can all come up after, but let's hear from the applicant. As long as you sign the sheet. When you come forward, state your name, say opposed or in favor, and then you're going to sign the sheet, and then that's all we need to take that on to the next step for staff, okay? So I'm looking for Agent Chris Nava. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Yes, so I'm the agent on behalf of both the property owners. and I'm here to see what the result of this application and where we're going to head forward to.
Okay. So do you have anything else to say?
I mean, if the city bylaws allow such dwellings to be constructed on these lots, the owners will be glad, because that was their main reason behind purchasing these lots for themselves. As neighbors have mentioned, it is going to be a multi-generational home as per the owners, and potentially vacation homes as well, because one client lives in Montreal, the other one lives in Toronto, so they're always back and forth. So,
Okay.
yeah. And in regards to the living space as well, if you do notice on the drawings, there is a family room space on the second floor, as well as the main floor has a living space as well, which accounts for that living space that some inquire about. Yeah.
Okay. Do the committee members have any questions? Councillor Panchuk?
Thank you, Mr. Napa, for coming. So is it the intention of your clients to relocate here and live permanently in Belleville?
That's what they have indicated, permanently or on a seasonal basis.
Right. So what do your clients do in Toronto and Montreal? What type of occupations do they have?
They're both business owners, restaurant business owners.
Right, and they're going to relocate their businesses to Belleville?
I mean, it's in between both cities, so they're trying to find a ground space here. Yeah.
Okay. And if municipal bylaws don't allow for this type of development to go forward, what do you think your client's intentions would be with the space?
I mean, their original intention was to have these semis built due to the, as I mentioned, multi-generational. They are huge families, so that was the original intention. But if need be, if it has to be a single detached, I just don't see how they would proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Miller?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here. Considering what is being proposed, and clearly the objection of the neighborhood, that it's going to be a seasonal residence, have you considered other areas within the city of Belleville that might be more conducive to that kind of development?
That's honestly, the owners purchased the lots. They just approached us to manage the project, and we're carrying forward the applications and obtaining pretty much the permits to build in place. Yeah.
I guess when I see a 5-bedroom home, you get a certain mindset as to what a 5-bedroom home would be in terms of square feet, probably something in a 2,500 square foot environment. As opposed to what's being proposed here. And I've got to admit, when I saw the plans, the red flags were up even before I was aware of the objections. In terms of if you had to make a guarantee to the city, and I'm not even sure if that's allowed, but as far as allowing duplexes or at least semi-detached, they're not uncommon, and I know there have been some built even in that area. But at the same time, we know there's single-family homes. So is your client prepared to adhere to a single-family home as opposed to multi-generational, where 5 bedrooms and the impacts it can have on what is becoming a much more populated area of the city, and highly desirable, obviously? Are they willing to go to that extent?
It's something that can be discussed with them, but from my understanding, the main reason behind these semis is the fact that, again, multi-generational, and each unit does consist of about 3,000 square feet in total, each unit. So a semi-detached is about 6,000 square feet total, so each building will be 6,000, which is sufficient for 5 bedrooms with en-suites, which is very common in the city. I mean, we're starting to build houses where we have a living space and a bedroom and a kitchen on the main floor, at the same time another space on the main floor with bedrooms on top to accommodate these multi-generational families now. Just trying to stay within the same dwell in order to save on the long run. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Nava, what's the name of your company?
I am employed by Hestia Design and Build.
Sorry?
Hestia Design and Build.
Okay. And I understand the multi-generational aspect, but, you know, my biggest concern is the seasonal use. So describe that to me. You indicated that both owners live in the large urban centers, Toronto and Montreal, and you said that they may relocate and use it as a multi-generational family home. However, you also commented that not and, but it could be used as a seasonal use. So then the question becomes, what else is it being used for if it's not being used for, like, say, summer vacation, if you will?
I mean, as I mentioned, it's a multi-generational family, and they are looking to retire. So they're just putting things in place so the businesses can be run and they can settle in, and they need the spaces. And if it's a semi-detached house, they do still have that, some sort of privacy between, say, their children or how many ever children they have, and it's just their home in a sense. It's just divided, so they have some sort of privacy, but at the same time,
yeah, Madam Chair, I'm not too concerned, Mr. Nava, about the multi-generational use. I understand that fully. You said or seasonal use, and so that would suggest to me that that may not necessarily be the primary use, but it's seasonal. So your clients then would use that when it's available. So, because I'll tell you right now, where I go with that questioning, or what you described to me, was that it's going to be some type of rental unit, and we'll make sure as the owners that we have availability to come and vacation in the Quinte region. And so, describe the seasonal aspect of it to me in terms of who's going to maintain it. Is it going to be left unoccupied for periods of time? That type of thing. And my line of questioning is based on how you described it.
all right. So in the sense of seasonal, if the owners are not on the property, it will be left vacant. Since they are spending quite a little bit of money in constructing these homes, they're trying to pretty much match the existing neighborhood, and they're spending a high dollar on the interior finishes as well. And it's not something that you would do for per se a rental unit or any of that sort. I mean, each bedrooms have en suites, most of them at least, and these finishes are not your rental type of finishes. So it just does not make sense for them to invest that type of money in order to rent it out as a boardroom house or even like vacation homes for others. It will be for their own purpose.
And another question I have then is and we'll go back to the multi-generational use. Basically, you're going to have allotment for 2 vehicles in the driveway and 2 vehicles in the garage. Yes. Is that adequate enough parking?
I mean, since it's like, say, the grandparents are constantly living there, and the kids always come by in and out, it's not going to be like, say, 3 families together at once. So 4 car parking spaces is sufficient, especially in the city. Like nowadays, a family tends to have 1 to 2 cars, not more than that. So 4 seems like it's sufficient for each unit at least.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you. And anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Going once? Oh, yes, sir.
I just had a question
Okay.
for this gentleman.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I've listened to you explain.
Come to the podium, sir, so we can hear you. This is being streamlined.
Sir, I've listened to you explain all this with the multi-generational and possibly vacation home, possibly this, possibly that. But do you know, can you speak for these people in the long term? Because what you've said, that these people are retired, and if they intend to stay here and this happens, that's one thing. But how do you assure us that in a year down the road, they're not going to sell this place? Because, if the other thing that's proposed here that we haven't spoke to, because it's a separate meeting, is the zoning. Because they're going to build these duplexes, and you've put in applications to sever the lots. So you don't have 1 residence, in effect you have 4. Okay, so you're asking us to accept the fact that you're going to have 4 multi-generational homes. Is that correct?
Well,
Come to the podium, sir.
yes. So from my understanding, both the units are going to be owned by the owners itself. They're just acquiring the severance per se in the future, say 1 year or 5 years down the road. No one's going to be able, like, I cannot vouch for these owners, what they're going to be doing with the properties on the long term, right? So it's just, with semi-detached houses, from my understanding, a severance goes hand in hand with that. So the lots can be split into two to accommodate the semi-detached concept.
Okay.
Sir, if I understand you correctly, really what you're saying here is that there are going to be 4 separate homes with separate ownerships, so that if for some reason these people decide to sell one in a few years down the road, they can do that. Is that right? Because I realize that, but I mean, nobody, I'm not picking on you, but I don't think anybody can stand here with any surety and say to us, oh no, you don't have to worry about this for years down the road. Because the simple fact, once this is rezoned, if they, for some reason, God forbid, but if there was a death in the family or something drastically changed, they could sell that tomorrow and it could turn into student residences. And this is our point, because once it's rezoned, how do we go back? And thanks very much. I just need to clarify those things.
Thank you, Mr. Labarge. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Going once, twice, 3 times? Okay, so anybody else wishing to come to the podium, just stating your name, just say opposed or in favor, and we'll take your name for the record. Thank you all.
My name is Ellie Wickett, and I am opposed.
Thank you. Sign the podium.
Hello, I'm Pat Skanes, and I'm opposed.
Can you get them? Okay.
Jane Van Vlock, and I'm opposed.
Thank you. Make sure everybody signs before they leave.
Stephen Hatfield, I'm strenuously opposed to this.
That's not an option.
I'm Nell Lockyer, and I'm opposed.
Thank you.
Wayne Shepherd, and I'm opposed.
Carolyn Cockerline, and I am opposed.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question for clarification?
Yes, absolutely.
When I said that I was opposed, I'm opposed to both of the properties?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a given?
Yeah.
My name's Kevin Keogh, and I live at 32 South Church Street, and I strongly oppose this.
Thank you. I'm Mary Van Gaal, 32 Church Street, and I very strongly oppose this. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Brian Sagam. I live at number 53 South Church Street, and I strongly oppose as well. Yep.
And I'm Kathy Seckham, and I live at 53. I own 53 Church Street next door, and we have a triplex, and we're very strongly opposed to things because we know of the noise and all that too.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Anthony Gray, 50 Church Street South. Please, ladies and gentlemen, in good conscience, do not approve or defer this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Opposed.
Jim Stewart, 24 Church Street, Unit 2. Opposed.
Maria Gomes, live on South Church Street, Unit 2, and strongly opposed.
John Dodds, 28 South Church Street, and I am opposed.
My name is Margaret Schuler, and I live at 143 Duffin Avenue, and I'm opposed.
Thank you.
Greer Muir, 33 Finch Drive, and I am strongly opposed.
Thank you.
So the zoning goes from what? I have like zero interest in municipal politics.
If you've run out of room on the sign-in sheet, you can
I'm
flip it
Leona
over.
Skanes, and I'm opposed.
Thank you.
46 Church Street.
Thank you. Don't we have, well, I got scrap paper. Oh yeah, they're just starting the second one now.
You know when I was actually running, and I was doing.
It doesn't have, it's like a bad petition, it doesn't have anything on the top.
So, 2, and then we still have this. Oh my goodness. We did this in the wrong order.
My name is Barbara Hiscock. I live at 10 Cavendish Drive, and I oppose.
Thank you.
Call me up sometime and I'll tell you how it's crooked this area is going. What do you think of running for council?
I know I've heard a lot of this stuff.
Well, you know what, I knew some of what was going to happen, that's why I ran. I couldn't believe the abduction. This is nine.
This is really nasty.
This is totally profit. I lost my place in line.
Move along. Move along. Use both legs. My sister got a job as a clippy, in Glasgow for a summer job.
Donna got in front.
She says, okay,
Move up the bus, ladies and gentlemen, please. Use both legs.
I saw Tony Gray from X-ray. I saw Tony Gray from X-ray.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Signed it, Dawn?
No.
Have you stated your name?
Not yet. I can't.
All right, yeah. This is the biggest crowd. Oh, it's scary. I'm not on it yet. I'm running. I've been on, I was on council for 8 years. I know. I was going to say, but by the end of the 8 years, the rocks were sick. And I could see what was going to happen in the next 4 years. So I ran for there. Most highly political election I've ever had.
So we're going to put out some more paper so that we can get the line going, because we have 4 other applications that we have to deal with.
Donna Grogan, 50 South Church Street, opposed.
Thank you.
And I have stayed in touch with me. There you go.
Oh, I've done it already. I'm just waiting to line up to...
Okay.
Anyway, all back.
Pat Culhane, 255 Charles Street, strongly opposed.
Thank you.
My name's Kim Dolan. I oppose. I'm on Albert Street. My mom's on South Front
Thank
Church
you.
Street.
Jackie Vivian, 44 South Church Street, opposed.
Thank you.
Do you wait, or do they just step up and say it, or do they announce you?
Martin Bond, 2 South Front Street, opposed.
Thank you.
Linda Bond, 2 South Front Street, opposed.
Thank you.
Martha Surratt, 24 South Church Street, Unit 10, opposed.
Thank you.
And John Surratt, 24 South Church Street, Unit 10, opposed.
William Smith, 80 South Front Street, opposed.
Elaine Smith, 80 South Front Street, opposed.
Pat Pamenter, 41 South Church Street, opposed.
Barry Pamenter, 41 South Church Street, opposed.
Thank you.
They put up 2 pages.
Marina Mugford, 40 South Church Street, opposed.
Winston Mugford, 40 Boyce Street, opposed.
Make my key time, my speech very, very short and get a couple of points rather than read my own prepared statement. That's one of the smartest politicians this state's ever known. That's a recommendation. That's what I'm going to do. But that's the cool thing. Yeah, you keep hitting one side and one side. I want to sign this first, though. I want to make sure I'm on record opposing this development.
I'm Jan Messer, 57 South Church, and I oppose.
I'm going to join you after I do this.
I'm definitely opposing.
I just said, I'm right here, right like next door. Then I'll join you. If you want to go without me, go without me. I just think that we could go together, and that would be fine too. I'm going to just sneak across, find out the answer. Our landline is 613, don't tell me, 977.
9755.
I asked you not to tell me so I can remember it. I'm trying to learn it. That's why I said, don't tell me. Then you told me. Trying to learn it, that's all.
We're going to have to go down the stairwell
I just
now.
want to learn it. Just go, honey. You're just going to whine about this. Go have your smoke. I was going to join you, but it's becoming like a constant, complaining. Stop complaining.
You can go down the stairwell.
Okay, just stop complaining. There's lots of stairs.
Are you okay? I'm supposed to be good.
I don't know. Never know. Well, let's do the
Oh, do you have to sign too? No? Oh.
No, as long as you sign the white one, it's 55, I'm 50.
Oh, I haven't signed the white one. I just did the blue one, so. Yeah.
Then you'll be sure to
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to resume our meeting, please. We have 3 other applications. So please continue to sign your name, but we're going to proceed with the next application. I need a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, please, 3.1. We need separate motions. So Councillor Miller, Councillor Panchuk, all in favor, carried. And 3.2 is the same motion, and I need that to be forwarded on to PAC. Councillor Carr, Councillor Boyce, all in favor, carried. Moving on to 3.3, the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 1334 Clearview Road, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B771060. Owner is 2521461 Ontario Limited. Applicant is John Van Heusen. And I will call upon our manager to present the application.
So there were 2 severances granted for 1334 Clearview Road by the Committee of Adjustment. These 2 lots are for the purpose of building single detached dwellings on each of the lots. So a condition of approval was the lots be rezoned, which is the reason this application is before committee tonight. The rezoning to rural residential is consistent with the provincial policy statement along with official plan policies for rural lands. I also like to note that there are lands on this property designated environmental protection in the OP and zoned hazard. These lands are not part of the rezoning from rural to rural residential. Staff is recommending approval of this application.
Thank you. Anybody present wishing to speak in favor or opposing this application? Really? Going once, twice, in favor or opposing the application? Going 3 times? Okay, can I have a motion then to forward this on to the Planning Advisory Committee, please? Councillor Boyce, Councillor Panchuk, all in favor? Carried. Oh, yes, sir.
There's no one here in support of this application?
John Van Heusen is here.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yep.
okay. Thanks.
Did you wish to ask him a question?
No, I just wanted to make sure there was someone.
The applicant, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. 3.4, the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 1... Do I have it? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't call the vote. I'm just trying to get through this. All in favor? Carried. 3.4, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 58 Avondale Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1061. The owner is Mary Ann and Keith Roberton. Applicant agent is RFA Planning Consulting, Inc. And can I ask for Manager Ashton to present the application?
So we have an application for rezoning to permit an apartment within a single detached dwelling. The submission originally contemplated a rezoning to permit the apartment as part of a converted dwelling. The main dwelling was built prior to 1935, but it was determined that the addition, while appearing to be older, was built around 1970, and therefore the definition of a converted dwelling could not apply to this property. So the report discusses the requirements of municipalities to update their official plan policies and zoning bylaws to allow secondary suites in single detached, semi-detached dwellings, townhomes, and accessory apartments, and accessory buildings, I should say, as of right. Currently, the city is undertaking an official plan update, which the province will require secondary suite policies before it is approved by the province. The staff report discusses these requirements, which are now in the Planning Act and Provincial Policy Statement, which were the result of the Strong Communities Through Affordable Housing Act 2011, which, according to the Ministry's website, includes a wide range of actions to improve the affordable housing system, including amendments to the Planning Act. As noted in the report, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs Housing previously indicated the expectation of the province of having the municipalities coming into compliance with the Planning Act by revising their official plans before December 2017 and their zoning bylaw by December 2018. So updates to the official plan that are occurring, as well as future consolidation of the city's 3 bylaws into one consolidated bylaw, will bring the city into conformity with the Strong Communities Through Affordable Housing Act 2011 and the Planning Act. But in the meantime, staff will bring forward requests for secondary suites as site-specific zoning amendment applications. When the zoning bylaw is updated, it will provide general provisions to allow accessory apartments and require basic elements such as the provision of 2 parking spaces for the main dwelling and 1 parking space for the secondary suites. In the case of the application, there's ample parking for the secondary unit, and there are no concerns from staff. Staff is supportive of the application as this supply of a secondary dwelling unit or accessory apartment is consistent with the Strong Communities Through Affordable Housing Act 2011 and the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wishing to speak in favor or opposing this application? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sean Legere, planner with RFA Planning Consultant. We're the agents for the application. I just wanted to say that we reviewed the staff report and concur with the recommendations, and to thank staff specifically for a very thorough report. And we're here to answer any questions. And the owners are also present in case there's more specifics asked about the building itself.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any questions to ask of the deputation by the committee? Seeing none. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor or opposing? Yes, come forward.
I have questions about the building because
Sure. Can you state your name, please, first?
Noreen Johnstone. I live at 69 Avondale Road, which is almost directly across the street from the building.
All right.
And I'm a little bit confused as to, like right now, there's only one unit in there. I see like 10, 12 cars parked there all the time. There's students coming in and out all the time. At times, there's huge, loud noises and a lot of activity going. So I'm not sure that allowing more of the same or more units in there is really in my favor or anybody else's in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Because, like, it seems to me now, it's not a couple of units, it's full of student housing. And it is not, in fact, you know, a single or a double dwelling. It's a multiple dwelling with lots of people living there.
Okay.
So that's my concern.
Okay.
My husband and I are both opposed.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to... Oh, was there any questions at the deputation first by the committee? No? Anybody else wishing to speak on this matter? Opposed or against? Okay. Going once, twice, 3 times. Can I have a motion to move this to the Planning Advisory Committee, please? Councillor Panchuk? Come on, guys. Councillor Miller? All in favor? Carried. 3.5, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 10245 as amended, 500 College Street East, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1062. The owner is Sears Canada, Inc. The applicant is Belleville Complex, Inc. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant, Inc. And I'll ask for Manager Ashton to present the application.
So we have an application for rezoning of the lands associated with the former Sears warehouse to allow a cannabis production facility. The applicants are here tonight to present a comprehensive presentation. As pointed out in the staff report, industrial land use policies and the official plan permit uses associated with the manufacturing, assembling, fabricating, packaging, or processing of goods and services, including transportation, truck terminals, warehouses, railway uses, or other similar uses. The proposed use is consistent with these policies. In the report, we note that currently there is a distinction between medical and non-medical cannabis production, namely that production and sales for non-medical cannabis is not authorized and no license can be obtained under the current regulations. Starting October 17, 2018, all medical and non-medical cannabis production will fall under the same Health Canada license. In practical terms, this means that the site will be rezoned to allow medical marijuana under our current zoning, and after October 17, 2018, the city will have to update its zoning bylaw to be consistent with the terminology and requirements of the new cannabis legislation. Staff is supportive of the rezoning of the subject lands from the current M21 General Industrial Zone with special provisions to M210 General Industrial Zone with special provisions that permit a medical marijuana production facility. In addition, an H holding symbol is recommended to be attached to the site, requiring the applicant demonstrate that all licensing requirements of Health Canada have been satisfied before the use is permitted to operate.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd ask for deputations opposing or in favor of this application.
Hello again. My name is Sean Legere, once again for the record, with RFA Planning Consultant, Inc., agent for the application. We have reviewed the staff report and concur with its recommendations. With me today, I have Devin Pinnell, the Director of Business Planning and Products, to present a very brief few words. And with him, accompanying him is Arnaud Graal, the VP of Operations, in case there's other specific questions the committee may have. Devin?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity. All right, so you guys should have in front of you a copy of the presentation. So we just wanted to take a couple minutes this evening, talk a little bit about our organization, who we are, provide a little bit of context in terms of what we do, where we're based out of, and talk about what we look to do with the facility here in Belleville. So a little bit about our company. Hexo Corp, which is formerly the Hydropothecary, is a publicly traded company on the TSX. We create and distribute innovative, easy to use, and easy to understand products to serve the Canadian cannabis market. Based in Gatineau, Quebec, our facility is a 300 square foot production facility with an additional 1 million square feet under construction and slated for operations in early 2019. Our products are produced, processed, packaged at our Gatineau facilities. For further clarity, the cultivation, the growing of the product happens in greenhouses at that facility. We currently operate at multiple locations, with our main operations in Gatineau at the production facility, a distribution center in Lachine in Montreal, and a head office in downtown Gatineau. We recently announced a partnership that will see us enter the European markets through a facility to be built in Greece. And Hexo employs over 225 people, and we anticipate doubling our headcount in the next 12 months. So thank you very much, Sean, for the introduction. My name is Devin Pinnell. I'm a chartered accountant, and I'm the Director of Business Planning and Products. I'm responsible for product development, product management, the project management office across the company, and supporting facility acquisitions and other capital projects. With me today, I have Arno Grohl, who's our VP of Operations. He's responsible for supply chain, facility operations and capital projects, cultivation, processing, and quality assurance. Just for further clarity, so the owner of the property will ultimately be Belleville Complex Inc. Belleville Complex Inc. is the company that acquired the facility from Sears Canada. The Complex Inc. is a company formed exclusively for the purposes of owning and operating this facility, and it's owned by Alegna Holdings Inc. and Hexo Operations Inc. The tenant, which is us, Hexo Operations Inc., will be the anchor tenant of the facility and has executed a long-term lease to occupy and operate out of the premises at 500 College Street East. Why Belleville? The location at 500 College Street East was selected for a whole host of reasons, including the following. Future-proof. It's a large building that will allow us to continue to expand our operations now and into the future as we continue to grow at a rapid pace. Logistics, it goes without saying the proximity to the 401 and to major transportation routes is extremely appealing given the volume of product that will be moving through the facility. Labor, and this was really important. There's a talented workforce here in Belleville with experience in logistics and distribution, and given the timeline since the existing facility had slowed down its operations, we're hopeful that a lot of that talent pool is still accessible and willing to explore the opportunity of coming to join our organization. Strategic location, situated between Toronto and Montreal, which will allow us to serve the two biggest Canadian markets, that being the SQDC and the OCS, which are the respective bodies responsible for distribution in the two provinces, and infrastructure, so access to utilities in sufficient quantities, electricity, gas, water. Taking a second just to talk a little bit about employment opportunities. Hexo is looking to operationalize the Belleville facility as quickly as possible and in line with the first harvest coming out of our new 1 million square foot Gatineau facility in April of 2019, obviously pending all applicable approvals. Initial employees would be hired and conduct onboarding and training in the months leading up to go live. That would include coming to our existing facilities, learning how our operations functioning, and making sure that the culture of our organization is passed successfully onto the new location. Anticipated first hires would be March timeframe, scaling up approximately 100 full-time equivalent very quickly. Job opportunities will include processing, research and development, compliance, logistics, finance, and marketing. And it goes without saying, construction jobs will commence as early as October as we start transitioning the facility to its intended use again, contingent on all the applicable approvals. I think one of the important things to consider is that the existing facility is an enormous facility, and it was purpose-built for Sears. So as we look to operationalize the facility, there will have to be substantial capital improvements, which is going to create significant economic opportunity both locally and with suppliers across the country as we bring in their pieces of equipment and technology. The operations at the facility will initially include warehousing, research and development, product processing, transformation, packaging, and quality assurance and control. The facility will be set up initially to handle all of the existing activities at our current facilities, and will have the capacity to process and store over and above the anticipated 108,000 kilograms of product that we've produced at our Gatineau facilities annually. The renovations to the building will be numerous to transform the facility from its current state to a GMP-compliant facility capable of meeting the stringent standards of Health Canada. The current intentions are to make substantial capital investments on a per square foot basis in line with market rates for these types of facilities, and this will include both construction and equipment-related costs. The total amount of spend will be validated in the coming weeks as the consultants, engineers, and architects have the opportunities to present their initial proposals. Really briefly, I just want to talk about something that is incredibly important. As a licensed producer under the current ACMPR regulations and Future Cannabis Act, we are required to meet the strict requirements set out by Health Canada in relation to physical security. Having operationalized multiple facilities at our existing sites, we are well versed in designing a security system that is both compliant with the standards and our own internal policies. We have an organizational security plan that acts as the backbone in our system design and which ensures the objectives of the plan are contemplated at all times in safeguarding our assets, our people, and the safety of the general public. The final component is the Health Canada licensing. The license application process is underway, but until zoning is approved and documentation in relation to the transaction for the facility is completed, we will have to wait on submitting our Health Canada license. The intention is to submit to Health Canada once the zoning amendment has been approved. Once that submission has been provided to Health Canada, the objective is to have the facility licensed as soon as possible upon completion of the review and feedback phase of the application. The granting of the license is contingent on submitting a confirmation of readiness to Health Canada, which will have to wait until all security measures, systems, and critical rooms to support the operations are completed and ready for inspection. I'd like to thank you again very much. HEXO is very much looking forward to the opportunity to become a part of the fabric of the community. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate.
Okay, just stay there for a second. We'll see if the committee have any questions. Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I feel like we're really getting the hang of this. The building is sold. There's nothing pending regarding zoning or anything along that line. Your
No, the building sold.
The building is sold. You've signed the agreements. Assuming that all of this goes forward, how long does it take? You mentioned you can't apply for your Health Canada licenses until everything's ready to go. So once that happens, if it happens, how long does it take you to actually get your license and be up and coming?
So the license component, we're going into kind of uncharted waters. Health Canada is obviously seeing a much higher number of applications, and post-legalization, we suspect that those numbers will continue to rise. So from a service standard, we don't know with any level of certainty. That said, with our existing facilities, the approach we've taken is to submit as much of the documentation as we can up front, get the buy-in, cover off on any of the potential hurdles and obstacles, and then that last piece, which is that operational readiness assessment. When they come in to do that, it's more of kind of just a final tick on the box. So for us, the plan would be to get to that stage as quickly as possible. That said, the facility is quite large, and with the work that needs to be done, that process will take months. So for us, we're incentivized because when our new facility comes online, that product needs to go somewhere. And so for us, this is where we've chosen for that product to be processed. So there's no guarantees, and we certainly can't speak on their behalf, but we'll do everything within our power to make sure it happens as quickly as possible.
In terms of truck traffic, and keeping in mind that when Sears operated, obviously there was substantial traffic, so that's not the issue, but how much do you anticipate?
That's a really good question. Right now, as we move towards recreational, there's quite a bit of traffic coming from our facilities and from other facilities as you go to that initial scale up. But once the distribution centers for the various provinces have been filled, then it's more maintenance. So from a volume of traffic inbound from our facilities, I don't think you would be talking about more than 1 or 2 trucks coming on a daily basis. And outbound, again, the product itself doesn't occupy an enormous amount of space, and certainly as it's processed down further, it occupies even less. So the 100+ doors will not all be used.
And I know you didn't put a figure on the renovation costs, and I won't hold you to anything, but can you ballpark it?
I hesitate to do that only because I do believe that the costs will be significant, and capital expansion is one of the things that, as we acquire the facility, the markets will want to know that information as soon as we do. That said, you're talking in the millions and millions of dollars, not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, I hesitate to give you a figure, but it will be substantial.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the committee? Councillor Panchuk?
Just to follow up on Councillor Miller's, thank you for coming, by the way. Follow up on Councillor Miller's question regarding truck traffic. We've had a couple other applications come forward, and I had some concerns regarding the security protocol for a facility of this type. And I understand that there are certain requirements for transporting the product from the site of production to the facility and then back and forth. Can you just tell me that is a Health Canada requirement, so all the other protocols that we had been spoken about other facilities would be consistent with this one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The transportation requirements are consistent across the board. And then the transportation requirements from our facility and to the outbound distribution centers, some of that is dictated in those relationships, but generally the bar is set quite high.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Ross Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Devin, thanks very much for coming. It's great to see you here. Just a couple of questions, just in order, because it is such a large space. Am I correct in assuming that you produce this somewhere else and bring it here for processing and then shipping out to the end users? Or do you have an idea that this will at some point be some type of hydroponic place in order to grow here in the community?
I think it would be important to have the flexibility to do both. That said, producing indoors is extremely expensive. Our existing facilities in Quebec allow us to have competitive advantage from the standpoint that there's a subsidized rate for the electricity, for the lighting, and also obviously the natural light. So given the size of our existing facilities, currently, that is not the plan, but the flexibility there, should there be changes in the cost structure or in the marketplace, would be advantageous.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor or opposing this application? Yes, come forward, please. State your name. Could you state your name first, please?
I'm Paul Bell. I live at 143 Dufferin in Belleville.
Okay, thank you.
If I could provide my remarks to the committee speaker.
Sure. Just pass them to Councillor Panchuk, and he'll pass them through. Thank you.
Fools rush in. I have serious reservations about Belleville creating any policies surrounding cannabis at this time. My concerns have no connection to the company interested in investing here. For that reason, I'll make no direct mention of their good name in this deputation. I would never demonize any enterprise that displays the wisdom to bring their business to Belleville. They are golden. My hope would be to retain their interest while we get all the facts. As a potential employer of upwards of 200 people, they should want that too. Belleville must provide a climate that offers businesses the best chance to succeed. Right now, we cannot offer that climate, that assurance, to the cannabis industry. There remain political, social, and economic concerns that must be addressed by both levels of government before we can create fair, informed, sensible policy surrounding cannabis. We lack clarity regarding federal and provincial cannabis legislation. The Premier, 2 days after tabling provincial legislation, admitted that his government was struggling to make law that was fair and sensible under ambiguous federal legislation. One issue that the Premier raised that should concern us all is that under the proposed provincial legislation, pot can be smoked wherever cigarettes are allowed. Near a swing set in a park, by the schoolyard fence, near a bus stop. You get the picture. Until that concern is addressed, any municipal policy created not abiding that law would expose the city to potential charter or human rights litigation. Also, should an employer determine that an employee is high and send them home, perhaps they smoked or vaped pot on their break, they would be exposed to potential litigation of the same nature. Hastings County Warden Rodney Cooney warned of this exposure to litigation in his monthly address last week in Belleville. As it stands today, anybody employed by or invested in the cannabis industry faces lifetime barring from the United States. Cannabis remains illegal under American federal law, in spite of some states legalizing it under their separate constitutional authority. Until this matter is worked out between the two federal governments, it will be a disincentive to potential employees and investors alike. Check your portfolios before you book your next business trip or vacation in the States. If they ask you, and they might, you will be denied entry for life. We lack definitive scientific data to inform safe limits of THC in a person behind the wheel. Belleville police have been training in basic field sobriety tests with a mind to high driving because no reliable test exists to confirm pot impairment. The best on the market is about 70% reliable, takes about 20 minutes to get a result, doesn't work at all in the cold, and costs about $2,000 per unit. If we put one in each cruiser, we'd blow the police budget, and they'd never stand up in court. Cops are forced to make the subjective call as to how high is too high to drive. That's unfair to everyone. When we welcome a business to Belleville, we protect them from infringement by unlicensed vendors. Some cities shut down children's lemonade stands to protect against such infringement. The black market will undercut legal pot vendors' prices. Will Belleville police be asked to break down the doors of every small-time vendor of an otherwise legal product should we allow a retail pot store in the city? As it stands now, the answer is yes. There are costs attached to that, both in the expense of deploying police and the risk of Belleville cops looking like stormtroopers. Nobody should embrace that dystopian possibility. I have concerns about the viability of a business devoted to cannabis products. Cannabis oils show great promise in medicine, particularly in the treatment of infant epilepsy. Canadian pharmacy giant Shoppers Drug Mart has indicated that they will be a player in medicinal cannabis production and distribution. I expect them to control the bulk of the medicinal cannabis market. Other products, pot vaping experiences, cannabis-infused soft drinks and such, I don't see a lasting market for. Perhaps there is, we just don't know yet. Without a long-term contract to supply Shoppers or another pharmaceutical giant medicinal oils as a wholesaler, I think the viability of secondary cannabis products will not be enough to sustain a large-scale manufacturer and wholesaler. The fullness of time will reveal which product lines are sustainable and which are not. Without a linchpin product like medicinal oils and a guaranteed distribution agreement with a major pharmacy, it seems a very risky venture to me. If the cannabis industry is the economic panacea many claim it will be, then opportunities will exist to participate once federal and provincial legislation offer better clarity, and we've done the work and study based on real data and from watching what works and doesn't work in other municipalities to inform sensible policy. Right now, we don't have all the facts. We should create no policies, no crackdowns, no reefer madness. Belleville City Council has the opportunity and constitutional authority to just say no to cannabis policy until we can assure taxpayers, employees, and employers that they are safe from costly litigation. We should do just that. Fools rush in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Committee.
Just a second, please. Are there any questions from the committee? Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. Bell. I'm a little concerned that at the end of it, basically, you're using the platform, you're down as Belleville City Council candidate, Ward 1. I have an issue with that you're using this forum for that purpose.
I added that in the interest of full disclosure, because if
and I appreciate that. And I appreciate your point of view. I mean, I have full respect for where you're coming from. This is happening, whether people like it or they don't like it. The federal government has said it's happening, and on October the 17th, it's happening, and the provincial government is allowing it to happen. This isn't what you're talking about for the most part. This is a major endeavor, millions, tens of millions of dollars by the sounds of it, by the time they purchase their building, by the time they renovate. They're going to have 100 people employed, I assume, at pretty decent wages to start. It's happening. So why, in as much as I understand some of the things you're saying, there's some ambiguity, but it's nothing that we can as a community say we're not going to sell it. But 7 miles to the east of it, there's a couple of dozen outlets where you can get it just as handily. It's happening. So you stand back and you get left at the station, considering what's on the table, both in investment, in the community side of things, the millions of dollars in renovations that were referred to earlier, and I assume a lot of that will be local people being employed on top of those that will have full-time employment on top of the tax base. It's happening anyway. Why should we walk away from it?
Well, I think in your remarks to me, and I do appreciate your considered remarks, thank you, because those are definitely considerations that have to weigh into ultimate decisions, because there's a lot of money being invested here. Frankly, we don't know, and this is something that even the people who are investing in don't know, is whether they're really viable or not. They're investing a lot of money. I'm surprised that they wouldn't want to have this due diligence, but that's not my business. That's theirs. I respect that they're willing to come and invest in Belleville, and I would welcome anybody who would do that. I pointedly, and that's why I'm not specifically naming this company, because I want down the road, when we have an idea about what our actual exposure to litigation could be as a city making policies, I would want to retain their business. I would welcome them here. Of course it's happening. It's legal. It's going to happen. However, 2 days after tabling legislation, the Premier said he's sending it back to his ministers to re-examine because he doesn't like it. So if the Premier isn't happy with provincial legislation 2 days after they propose it, I don't think it's even remotely controversial to suggest that the federal legislation has been rushed through and that there are questions particularly regarding enforcement. And in our situation, again, I'll draw back on, if we allow somebody to sell pot in the city, and once you start making pot policy, if somebody comes in with a good business perspective, we have to let them in, basically, if there's no reason to deny them. But if we're not yet engaged in policy, if we exercise our rights to say we're going to wait and see what works in other municipalities because there will be early birds, then we can jump in with sensible legislation, not be risking, not be putting employers and the city at risk of massive legislation or litigation against us because, for example, if a city worker should choose to smoke a joint on his break or her break and then return to work, and you don't think that they're sober enough to work, so you send them home. As I was for years a small business owner, and in the commercial trades I dealt with, it was a factor. I did catch employees from time to time having a reefer, and I sent them home. I can't have you operating a power tool when I think you might be high. Because it was illegal at the time, I was allowed to do it. Now you run the risk of being sued for constructive dismissal or even a human rights violation. Until these things are ironed out at provincial and federal levels, anything we do opens us up to risk that I don't think we need to do. I think if we sit back and watch and wait, if this industry is the panacea economically that people are claiming it to be, then there will be room for us to invest, and there will be room for this good company to take the Sears warehouse and to develop. But again, their product lines, they're starting with a very diversified product line. They don't seem to have a linchpin. I'm concerned about that viability. I've never heard anybody complaining about the want or suffering for want of a lack of a cannabis-infused soft drink. I concede that the medicinal oils show great promise. However, as I mentioned in my statements, it looks like pharmacy giants are going to have a virtual lock on manufacturing and distribution. If we're going to help this company succeed by creating a proper climate for them to do business in Belleville, we need more facts to make our policy so that we can help them.
If I can just follow up, obviously this company is looking at a much larger vision than just Belleville. They're talking about serving, at the very least, the Eastern Canadian side of things. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a Belleville thing. There's a bigger picture.
If I may.
You've obviously put a lot of time and thought into this, and I appreciate that, respect it. This is the third application of cannabis-related application that's been brought to the committee, but it's the first time that you've been here. Is there something about this particular application as opposed to the prior two?
The only area that I would say specific to this application that I have deep concerns is there's been no indication to me that the company that is proposing to use this facility has a contract, an agreement with a major distributor, and I really don't see the viability of this business outside of having a linchpin like the medicinal oils and a distributor like a major pharmaceutical company before they're viable. Now, that's their concern more than ours, but we should be concerned about the viability of such a large-scale operation in the city of Belleville. This might not go as well as hoped, and I think there's substantial questions that remain to be answered before we can move forward with such a thing, with respect to a company that has obviously done a certain amount of diligence and clearly has their house in order financially to get this off the ground. I just don't know how long it's going to stay there.
And that was one of the reasons I had asked if they had purchased the building already. 2 million square foot building, I'm sure it doesn't go cheap, not to mention the investment that they're prepared to make. But isn't that their concern? I mean, is it not the market
I think it's all of our concern.
and the legislation?
I think it's all of our concern because we have to protect businesses from infringement. Again, once you open the door to having a cannabis business, it's going to be very difficult to not allow a retailer. Are we going to have Belleville Police deployed to protect against infringing on their products? I don't think anybody's going to be making a serious effort in Belleville to make cannabis-infused sodas or anything that would compete with these people. But it's a bigger picture, and they are right now, as they themselves admit, this is uncharted territory, and I think we should tread very carefully. I don't see why there's anything other than an advantage to sitting back, waiting while early bird municipalities make policies and try these businesses. Let's see what works and what doesn't there, and let's be the sober voice that just says no to pot for the time being.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Bell, just one thing that perhaps maybe you've missed along the way. As Councillor Miller has suggested, this is the third application that's come before our committee. And but as a result of the very first application that was going to be on Sydney Street, I brought a community standards bylaw forward through this committee to address just all the issues that you've just stood there and talked about.
Yeah.
It's going to deal with land use, setbacks. It's going to deal with security. It's going to deal with perhaps business fees that perhaps the city can charge some of these businesses that are going to open up this business, because it is uncharted waters. I'm not an expert, and I don't think anybody around this table is, at medicinal oils. It's all speculation. So, but just so that you know, that community standards bylaw is being looked at right now. It's a living document right now through our engineering department. Mr. Beauvais is on it. We've got the Belleville Police. We have different user groups that are going to comment exactly on this so that we get this community standards bylaw right. And when I researched it with municipalities right across Canada. We're not inventing the wheel. Like, other people have done this. So anyway, just so that you know, that's some of the background that this council and this committee have taken thus far.
Yes,
but I will let other
I'm aware, actually, that there have been such initiatives taken, and I applaud those initiatives, because that's ultimately what has to be codified or at least made policy by the city. However, any policies we make right now with the ambiguity, especially at the provincial level, regarding cannabis legislation. It strikes me that we're putting the cart before the horse by making municipal policy, or even pretending we can, because we don't know whether it's going to conform with provincial or federal legislation yet, because the provincial and federal legislation are living documents and nebulous as well. We have to make our policy to respond and in the best interest of our clients and our taxpayers, and I don't think we're able to do that until we get complete clarity from the province and the feds. We don't have that right now.
Okay, I respect your opinion. We have to move on.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yes. Is anybody else wanting to comment, ask any questions? Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
So I need a motion then to refer this to our Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Can I have a motion? Councillor Panchuk. I thought we were already there. Councillor Carr, all in favor? Carried. All right. So I need an adjournment of that public meeting. So Councillor Carr, Councillor Boyce, all in favor? Carried. Moving on now to the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee. Note for attendance that Councillor Panchuk is here on behalf of Councillor Graham. Mike Letwin sent his regrets. And I would like to note that David Joyce is present tonight despite the fact it's his birthday. And I'm going to get his name right tonight. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, moving on to the confirmation of minutes. 3.1, minutes of City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on September 4th, 2018. Councillor Card, Mr. Baltudis, all in favor? Carried. Deputations, no more deputations. Correspondence, 5.1, September 21st, 2018, memo from Committee of Adjustments. The resolution reads that the September 21st, 2018 memo from the Committee of Adjustment forwarding concerns raised by residents of South Church Street regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendments for B77-1058, 55 South Church Street, and B77-1059, 59 South Church Street be received and referred to referrals from the public meeting 6.1 and 6.2. Can I have a motion to receive that correspondence, please? Councillor Carr, Mr. Joyce, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 6.1, referrals from the public meeting. Yes.
Thanks.
Councillor Panchuk.
First, I want to make a motion, but first, can I just ask the clerk, can we deal with both 6.1 and 6.2 together in one motion?
We have to deal with it in separate motions.
Through the chair to Councillor Panchuk, just for the committee's benefit, because of the right of residents that dealt with and signed the podium sheet to appeal, we're best to have two separate motions.
Thank you. Then I'd like to make a motion that, and I'd like to amend or make a different motion. I'd like my motion to read that the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that application to amend zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 55 Church Street South, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be denied.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Boyce. There's a potential problem with that motion because people have left under the auspices that they thought that this was just going to be forwarded on for public input from staff. Sorry.
So just so I understand, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the explanation, but isn't it not our ability to make basically the four types of decisions today? So with what they left, that was their choice, but I still would like to proceed with that motion and be able to debate it and have a vote on it.
Just a second, please. Our manager also said that it has to be denied for reasons. So would you like to state that as part of your motion?
Sure. And denied due to insufficient parking.
Okay. So let's have anybody
Yeah.
want to speak to
So
that?
if I can just speak to it very quickly, and I appreciate, I know the meeting is already long and we've been here, but I've certainly listened to the residents. I also listened to Mr. Nava discuss. I have nothing opposed to multi-generational dwellings, and I think that there's a time and a place for them. I'm very concerned about the acute shortage of parking in this neighborhood already. I believe that the number of units that are proposed to have 4 parking spaces, 2 in the driveway and 2 in the driveway and 2 in the garage, is severely underservicing those lots. You know, I looked at the plans. There is really no ability to put additional parking, and so for those reasons, I will be voting in opposition to it. In support of the motion to deny, yes, thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak to this? Councillor Boyce.
Madam Chair, and throughout the flood, we became adamantly aware of the lack of parking. I remember going down several times in the Hipwhiters, and the residents had to park further north. There was not adequate parking. This is just going to compound the issue tenfold, so I'll certainly be supporting that motion.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this motion to deny? No? Call the vote. All in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I'll make the...
Is there another motion?
I'll make the same exact motion, except changing 55 to 59, please.
Okay. Do I have to put that on the table first? Okay. All right. So moved by Councillor Panchuk, seconded by Councillor Boyce. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for your time tonight as well and taking the time to come out.
Thank you. Thank you.
6.3, the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw 3014 is amended, 1334 Clearview Road, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1060, owner 2521461 Ontario Limited.
Madam Chair, I'll just move as written.
That would be great. Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Joyce. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 6.4, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 58 Avondale Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1061.
Madam Chair, I'll move as written, please.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Mr. Baltudis. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. 6.5, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 500 College Street East, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1062.
Madam Chair, I'll move as written.
Thank you. I'll just finish what it is. Owner, Sears Canada, applicant, Belleville Complex, Inc., agent, RFA Planning Consultant, Inc. Move as read. Councillor Miller, Councillor Boyce. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. 7.1, proposed expansion to Melrose Longs Quarry, Township of Tyendinaga, Manager of Policy Planning's report number PP 2018-41. The resolution reads that the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to the City of Belleville, that the report PP 2018-41 dated October 1st, 2018, titled Proposed Expansion of Melrose Longs Quarry, Township of Tyendinaga, be received as information. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Carb, Mr. Baltudis. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Information, did you want to discuss that?
It's fine, Madam Chair. Oh, well, I guess since you're going to recognize me, thank you.
Yes, I will recognize you. Why not?
All I was going to say is that, you know, clearly there's already some truck traffic issues on Casey, and I know down the road city's going to have to look at possibly limiting some of that. There are roads that are built for for heavier truck traffic, and I would argue that Casey's not one of them. It's a little bit more narrow, and the amount of work that Transportation Operational Services are doing now in terms of doing some asphalt edging and things of that nature to try to keep that road sustainable as it is. I think if this continues, which is good, and certainly supplies a lot to our community, however, we may need to look at down the road of limiting truck traffic on that road. Thank you.
That issue certainly has come before our council before regarding this very issue years ago, so it's still lingering. Information matters, number 8, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment report, monitoring report. Can I have a motion to receive? Motion to receive, Mr. Joyce, Mr. Baltutis. Any discussion on that? No? Anything? Nothing? Okay. All in favor? Carried. General business and inquiries. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, through the discussion and certainly from the deputations from the community members, we're hearing more and more, which is a good thing, that we do have a lot of students that are living in our city and attending Loyalist College, and there seems to be an increase in off-campus student housing. I guess what I would suggest, and I've heard it a couple of times, and there was one example here today that some public members have identified a home that's being used for off-campus student housing, and I would suggest now that the city's passed a proactive bylaw enforcement policy that property standards really take a hard look at off-campus community or student housing. And the reason why I say that is that, you know, we don't have to look too far to our east, and you know, there's certain parts of the city of Kingston that have become very much student housing, and I'm up there quite a bit, and obviously I would argue that the property standards are dismal, and all it takes is a number of properties to start to go downhill, and there's that multiplier effect. So just make a comment that perhaps maybe given the fact that we do have that proactive approach, that bylaw staff really take a look at some of these properties and enforce the property standards before it becomes a bigger issue in our community. No issue with off-student housing as it is, but the expectation is if you're going to live in our community, you're going to live up to a standard we all expect. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Director Beauvais.
Just to comment on that issue, it has come up pretty regularly over 20 years, and so as one deputation said today, it's been a bit of a challenge to get the college to buy into the fact that they should have a little bit of responsibility for the actions of students as they're in the community. So a number of years ago, we worked with the college following some of the what they call town and gown approaches that other post-secondary communities use, and we developed a flyer that the college supplies to every new student that comes to the community, and it basically tells them what's expected of them if they're going to live in Belleville, and it may be time to update that and include some information, more information on how you know, they can integrate into the community and not create problems in whatever neighborhood they're living in. And an additional note, I'll point out that we have been contacted by the college, and they're looking at the possibility of constructing some additional residence buildings on the school site, so that will obviously help that situation.
Good. Mr. Joyce?
Just to further Mr. Beauvais' comments, I think that we think it is prudent and timely to do that, particularly with the influx of international students. That seems to be where the growth is now at the college, and they're not going to have, say, the same awareness as local students or regional students. So I think it's critical, but I'm thrilled to hear, because I have met on other capacities with the college, and the whole issue of student housing is an issue to them, obviously. So I'm glad to hear that they're going to be building or proposing to build that. So, but I think that's great.
Perfect. Anybody else? Councillor Panchak.
Just on the same topic, but I would just point out, and I agree that giving you know, new students to our community some guidelines on behavior is a good idea. But the issues that we're finding with property standards are the responsibility of the owner of those homes. They're renting them out. We have you know, cleanliness issues. We have maintenance of lawns. We have dead lawns. Certainly on-street parking, that might be the students, but that's a matter of enforcement. And so I think what Councillor Carr was getting at, and I think I agree, is this past council has focused on enforcing our current bylaws. And when it comes to campus student housing, which we want to be encouraging and we want more of, and we want more housing in general. But the reality is, we currently have bylaws. We don't need to notify tenants of the fact that the property needs to be maintained. That, I think, needs to go to the property owners. And I'm just raising that because I think I'd like to see us already start on that part and let them know that property standards need to be maintained.
Anybody else on anything? I just wanted to ask Director Beauvais, is there any updates regarding public meetings, regarding the official plan?
We have been waiting on the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. They have our draft comprehensive review. That is the main component of the OP update. They're reviewing that and have asked for some additional time before we meet with them. So we want to meet with them and get any issues resolved that they have. While we're waiting for them, though, our planning consultant is preparing the amended policies that will have to go into the plan to bring it up to match the provincial policies that have changed over the years. So once we have those policies drafted and we have the ministry providing some comments, then we can roll it out to the public.
Okay, so how long do you think that's going to be?
Well, have they given us a timeline? Stephen's had some contact with them.
Well, we're supposed to be having a meeting or a teleconference with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs consultants and staff probably within the next month. So it's still
a ways away.
Not any of our doing, but it's the ministry is still going, I guess, through some changes. So they need to formalize their comments before they can release them to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know there's people that thought that was going to happen in the summer. So anyway, just trying to keep on top of it. Thank you. So moving for an adjournment then, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Baltutis, Councillor Carr, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.